Welcome everyone to another episode of the Lorepod podcast. I'm your host Dakota Morgan, coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona, and today we're going to be talking about one of DC's kind of but probably top 4 badass supervillains. That's right, we're going to be talking about DC Comics' Black Manta. Of course, we did see Black Manta come to live action. Not actually for the first time in the Aquaman movies, in the first one and the second one. I think the first time he did come to live action, though, was going to be around the time of Smallville, where we saw him on the Legion of Doom. Yeah, that's right, Smallville had the Legion of Doom, as well as a JSA, the JLA, and a lot. God, I always remember Smallville, everybody. So let's dive into the history here, a little shortened version history of this iconic character, and loads of facts I'm betting you didn't know. Of course, as always, be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. My Twitch, CodaRex97, my Instagram at Dakota_Morgan97, and at DakotaMorgan3 for my Twitter, or well, X now. All right, everybody, now business out of the way there, all that in the description box down below. Let's dive forward into, hence the pun, dive. Alrighty, dad jokes aside here, Black Manta was created in 1967 by Bob Haney and Nick Cardy, and he first appeared in Aquaman number 35. Now, Black Manta has actually had a few different comic book origins, and you would think that the one we did see in the movies would be the one that's been since the dawn of time of this character. That's not the case. Throughout the different decades of comics and the gold and silver and all that ages, they've actually given him different backstories in a sense where they explained a little bit, but never gave you too much info about this mysterious villain. Now, in the late 90s, we were actually able to get our first one. Yeah, that's right. We went from 67 until the late 90s until we got like an origin of this guy. Other than that, he's a guy who fucked around with Aquaman, right? But in the late 90s, we discovered that he was a young boy who grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, in Chesapeake Bay, but was actually kidnapped by pirates. And not the pirates where yo-ho-ho, the pirates where, like, they just take people's shit. Like Somalian pirates kind of crap. Now, they abused him in all the senses here on a daily basis on board the ship. But he actually saw Aquaman swimming with dolphins one day and started to scream out to Aquaman for help. But what happened? Well, sad to say here, he didn't see him at all, and that made him snap. And what he did was he actually went in and stabbed and sliced the throats of all the pirates on board the ship. And that is where also he learned to kill for the first time too. And he also vowed that he would find and defeat Aquaman for letting him, like, he just didn't even know he was there. He was like, what the fuck? Like driving a car and he drive past something, like I think like he just had no idea because they're jamming out to a music, or you listen to this podcast and next thing you know it's like, you let me to die. What the fuck are you talking about? I was just driving down like Baseline Road. What the hell? What are you talking about here? Now in the 2000s though, we did get also a new one where he was a young autistic orphan kid who was put in Arkham Asylum. Yes, the same one in Gotham City where they put all the fucking villains. You gotta imagine an autistic kid going in there. It's not gonna work out too well. Now, cold water did happen to bring him some extreme amount of pain. The only comfort he would get would be able to see Aquaman on the television, actually, during television hours. Imagine Arthur just going up to Bruce and being like, hey, your Arkham created a villain for me. We need to destroy this thing. Now, experimental treatments, shocker in that place, on him actually made him snap, killing his doctor, and that's when he was able to escape. Later on, he was able to actually make the Black Manta suit to help him in water and protection, and that's where we gave him the name David Hyde. That's where actually we got his first name was in there. Now, it actually flashed forward to the mid-2000, like 2013, 2014 era. You're going to be looking at the New 52, one of which I think deserves all the fucking recognition. I love the New 52. It's about when I started getting into comics full-time was then, so maybe that's why. Maybe I'm biased. New 52, though, Black Manta was a diver, and his dad was also the captain of the ship that he would dive from. So him and his dad were on a ship. Dad is the captain. This is the origin. Sound familiar a little bit here? They were treasure hunters and mercenaries. There you go. There's the kicker. They were hired by Dr. Shin, a good friend of Aquaman's dad, actually. And Shin hired him to take a blood sample of Aquaman to prove his Atlantean heritage and help find Atlantis, because Shin is, of course, always focused on proving Atlantis exists, and people are like, no, fuck you. But also, this is the world where aliens and metahumans exist. Yeah, whatever, I guess. Now, during Manta's confrontation with Aquaman, his dad actually died of a heart attack. Arthur Curry's dad, Aquaman. Aquaman's dad died of a heart attack, probably scared shitless by seeing this whole thing go down. Now, Aquaman went for revenge to kill Black Manta because, he doesn't really have the no-kill rule too much. So he went for revenge, but accidentally killed Black Manta's dad, who he thought was Manta aboard the ship. Henceforth, he was like, I will kill you. Now, a few little pinpoints of history here. There's a few little iconic things that happen here. Of course, so he's known for having his wetsuit, his trident from time to time. The dive suit also helps him breathe underwater and such like that. And those red eyes are high, powerful laser beams. Now, he usually also has a high-tech submarine, and as usually so, his high-tech submarine is in the shape of, you guessed it, a manta. Now, with some good interpretations of him, though, we have seen him in multiple different cartoon series, either cameos or a villain, like he was a villain in Young Justice as well, in the past few seasons of that. Again, in the movies and other items. Now, there is actually a storyline, because he gets even more hardcore, where he actually did kill Aquaman and Narissa's kid. That's right, and there's even one where he actually opened up a fish shop and was kind of retired, and they're in, I believe it's Whitest Night, the event that followed Blackest Night. And what happened? Well, he opened the fish shop, was like, I gotta return to villainy. And he just slit all the throats of everyone inside that shop. This guy, David's a dick. David is just a fucking dick. It has a little bit of the Black Manta there, a little bit of the history there of this iconic villain, I dare say. And I think the movies really helped out. I think Young Justice helped him out loads. New 52 is a very prominent character, and that's for a very long time. So I think all that really helped his character out. And he's great to write. You know, it's really cool. Alrighty, everybody. Without further ado, that's going to come to the end of the Lorepod podcast. Be sure again to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, social media in the description box down below. And of course, as always, everyone, stay creative.